Because I didn't want to get vulnerable. Because I honestly, I just wanted to be able to have sex and have someone to go eat food with.
So more companionship,
Yeah.
not the true vulnerability.
No, not at all. Are you kidding me? Then I would have to deal with myself.
No,
Back
correct.
then.
No, correct. And the reason why I asked you about the criteria, the reason why I layered that in there, is because a lot of times I notice like we don't actually date intentionally. We kind of just casually fall into stuff, and then we're just like hopeful that it's going to play out the way we would like it to.
Yes.
But as we were talking about, and as we have been talking about, when you want things to be done, ultimately is giving yourself the best chance, right? Yeah. You have to actually not only articulate these things, to your point, you got to look in the mirror and do the work, in my opinion. Because if you don't know the things that you need or the things you need to work on, how in the hell are you going to be able to explain it to somebody else?
Exactly.
Anytime you've ever tried to date anybody, from the first time you tried up until current person, right? Have you ever broke down any type of criteria of these are qualities that I know that I would like to see in a person, and there's some other things which I call deal breakers where I know I cannot compromise here? You ever put something like that together and actually evaluated a person when you were trying to be courted?
No.
Why?
Because I didn't want to get vulnerable. Because I honestly, I just wanted to be able to have sex and have someone to go eat food with.
So more companionship,
Yeah.
not the true vulnerability.
No, not at all. Are you kidding me? Then I would have to deal with myself.
No,
Back
correct.
then.
No, correct. No, but okay. And
so now we're like,
I appreciate that.
Now I'm like, I want to go very deep, but I also like, I'm a lot. I know I'm a lot. Like, I've traveled. I have a lot of experience. Like,
sure.
I don't even think the same way that most of the women that he's ever been with are.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not trying to bombard him, and he's already like, I feel like it's like a unicorn situation where it's like, I don't understand you, but I love hanging out with you. This is amazing. Or I'm like, I feel like if I give it a little bit more time, then I feel like he'll understand himself a little bit more in the energy that we hold with each other.
Right.
To be that vulnerable, to be like, okay, because he keeps wanting to ask it, and I'm like, but you're still not understanding. Because if you did understand, you wouldn't you wouldn't try to keep going.
Right.
If I've already told you where I'm at.
Right. Like allow for it to naturally unfold. Don't try to force it.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm like, I feel so bad because I'm like, you have no idea.
He's like, trust me, I would want to go if this was a few years ago, but
are you kidding me?
I'm trying
but then
to
I would be bored.
be
like
different.
I'm always bored instantly.
Which is because that tends to happen. I think it happens for men a lot too. Like, that's not unexpected behavior. And the reason why I asked you about the criteria, the reason why I layered that in there, is because a lot of times I notice like we don't actually date intentionally. We kind of just casually fall into stuff, and then we're just like hopeful that it's going to play out the way we would like it to.
Yes.
But as we were talking about, and as we have been talking about, when you want things to be done, ultimately is giving yourself the best chance, right?
Yeah.
You have to actually not only articulate these things, to your point, you got to look in the mirror and do the work, in my opinion. Because if you don't know the things that you need or the things you need to work on, how in the hell are you going to be able to explain it to somebody else?
Exactly.
And then if we are going on dates and we are doing these things, we're greatly diminishing the likelihood that it's actually going to work out for the long term, which means I'm going to have to start the cycle all over again. Maybe I'm going to get hurt. Maybe I'm going to get jaded. Maybe I'll get resentful because of decisions that I made for you. And then here we are today. Maybe we can change some of that.
Absolutely.
If we're willing to be intentional and say, hey, this is the things that I know I want from my life moving forward. These are some of the things I know I can compromise on because I understand nobody's perfect, because I'm not.
Yeah.
But these are the things I know I cannot compromise on. Put that together, digest it, really think about what makes the most sense. So when I sit down with you and we're actually having that real discussion, the vulnerable discussion, not the just trying to jump each other's pants as quickly as possible, we can actually be intentional and say, if we don't line up here, great, because it's better for us to end it now. So there's not this emotional attachment. And then we're increasing the chances that we can actually find somebody who does match more or not what we're looking for. What would you say to that?
We've actually had that discussion.
Okay.
Which is, but like, not as well structured as you just said.
Okay. That's okay. That's okay. I've taken a lot of time to put that into words, so
like
I know how to say that a little more fluently.
But I feel like we've gotten to that point where it's like I'm learning about myself in another way, and I'm seeing myself in a light that I am respecting myself, and I'm respecting someone else.
Yeah.
Not that I've never respected someone, but like I, in sexual relationships, had not. And it's not that I saw people as a piece of meat, but I didn't see the experience as it being more than just a moment in time. Whereas obviously every moment is an accumulation of who you are. Yes. And like your experiences.
Absolutely.
So we've had this discussion, and we've definitely mentioned the fact that like we don't want it to be like one of those things where we're just together because like we're scared to be apart at this point,
or scared of maybe being alone.
Exactly, scared of being alone, where it's like we're learning a lot and we're enjoying each other, and it's like it's I'm so grateful. It's like the most beautiful thing I've had in a very long time, where I'm just awesome. Like we can have the conversations, and I know you don't get it too much, but like he's willing to be vulnerable.
That's really good too, because that's the other half, right?
Because he's like, you
need them to do it, so you feel like maybe you want to do it more too.
Exactly. So we're not neither of us wants kids or marriage, so it's like at least there's that. And I've already been like, I can't promise forever, but like I am present. I think that's what we've both just said is we're here right now, and whatever happens. Like I think the most he's like, I just still want to make music with you later, like even if we don't work out. Like so.
It's interesting when you say that point, because I agree with that last part in particular. Even if you think about marriage, right, there's kind of like the somewhat false idea that the promise and the ring guarantees the outcome, right? Which we know is not always true. Not that I'm certainly not a hater of marriage. I actually promote it. But I also understand that things can change over time, right? Over the course of being with somebody. We're not the same person. We keep changing. Therefore, we should expect that they're going to keep changing too. The only point that I try to make on that idea is that we have to continue to choose each other.
Yeah.
So I have to keep working on me. You have to keep working on you. Hopefully we're promoting that environment where we're both trying to do that, so that we want to keep improving to be the best versions of ourselves for each other.
Yep.
Otherwise, if you can fall into that, we're just here because we're here.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't feel like we have a direction, which is why we're just still here, because I don't really know where I want to go. But if I have that idea in mind, I'm trying to get to this point, and you have that in mind with me, then we know ultimately we're working towards the same thing.
Yeah.
It might look a little different because we're not the same person, but there's a greater chance that it will work because we have that shared goal in mind. And I think a lot of times when it comes to dating, like we don't really think about those things, or maybe we don't go in as much detail, especially in the beginning. And a lot of that kind of slowly trickles out after months and years of being with somebody.
Yeah.
And then maybe you're just like, it's inherently harder to leave somebody when you've been with them for a long time because you feel the attachment.
Which is also something that I feel like people need to learn how to deal with is attachment. It doesn't always have to be bad.
No.
Or like letting
all.
go of attachment is, I think, the biggest thing. Letting go is, I think, the issue.
That's hard. I think that's hard for just about all of us for different reasons. And, it could also be loss. Like I've dealt with a lot of that too. So trying to learn how to deal with that.
I made a point to let everything go for so long, where I'm just like, relax, hold on to some stuff.
Yeah. But I think I want to make one more point real quick on that idea. If I'm trying to make it easier for me, like I'll be you in this example, easy for myself to want to be open with somebody, right? To me, it would behoove me to then have that sort of criteria and really be intentional about it. Number one, because I don't want to have to keep doing this. I want to minimize the amount of times I have to do this, but also because I'm increasing the chances that I'm going to want to be more vulnerable with them and not kind of serially date and have this huge wall.
Yeah.
Because then I'm not, to your point, I'm not really letting anybody in.
Nope.
Like we're physically together, but emotionally we're as distant as anybody could be.
I could be in Timbuktu.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
And at some point you can kind of feel that. Even the guys those of us that don't really know that, at some point you kind of feel that she's not present. Especially if you start feeling really connected to her.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, man, like, there's something's off here. Why am I like really invested in this and she's kind of like take it or leave it, or indifference? That's painful.
Oh my my goodness.
That's
I feel
painful.
so bad.
No, but I mean, it's also part of the growth, right? Like,
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
it's not like you're necessarily setting out to do these things.
No. Oh,
This
I
is
was
this
in
is
the
this is
moment.
that hindsight talk that we're doing. Mm-hmm. How can we be better? How can
How
we
can
learn?
you love yourself with all those mistakes?
Correct.
Is I think the mirror work.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to echo that point because I think a lot of times, again, we're just kind of making decisions at random, hoping it'll work out, and nothing is perfect, nothing is guaranteed. But the more that we are as complete and as honest with ourselves as we can be, that we can communicate that with somebody, hoping that we can kind of see that in them. Are they being as honest and transparent as they can be? And if we get to that point, maybe this can stand the test of time. Maybe we actually can make it to the end of our days, whether that's in a marriage, whether that's a long-term committed relationship, whatever that may be for you.
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
I feel like I am definitely I've been more vulnerable than I've ever thought I could be. And I'm excited that I'm not scared to continue that journey and continue
Awesome.
and not just like in a romantic relationship, but like I've been tired a long time of having like very superficial relationships where just because like I'm not I'll start saying all this weird spiritual stuff that people are just like what is this new age stuff? I'm like, how is it new age when it's been around forever?
Right.
Come on.
You're like, this has been here. What are you talking about?
Western stuff is new age.
But that's really important though, what you're saying. Like, how do you even get past superficial?
But just with friends where it's just like
vulnerability has got to be there. You because superficial literally means you don't go beneath the surface.
Yeah.
So in order to get there, I have to be willing to let you know something. Right?
It took me a long time to get there.
But that's beautiful that you've gotten to the point where you recognize that and that you're willing to put in the work to have more of those long-term, hopefully more committed and honest relationships with whoever it is that you value.
Yeah. I would have never even said I had a sexual addiction until like 2 years ago.
Until you took some time to like sit with it and really process.
To even understand. To even understand what I was doing. Like
but that's the work. That's what it takes. And again, I think for so many of us, like we don't sit with those things and we don't really try to understand. We just kind of just keep moving through life. And then sometimes we don't even realize that we've been on a merry-go-round for a really long time.
Pendulum swing.
Right. Like I've actually been making the same mistake with different people over the course of my life. And it didn't have to be that way. I understand sometimes we got to learn hard lessons. Don't get me wrong. I know
my
that.
last year.
But sometimes we're learning the same hard lesson and you don't actually have to. You can learn after the first one, you know?
Yep, absolutely.
You can put your hand on the stove one time and not burn your hand again. If you're willing to actually pay attention.
Exactly. Sometimes I'm just so stuck in the moment where it's like you have to be able to rack focus.
Yeah.
Like bring the back into the forefront and whatnot and
Absolutely.
be able to be like, okay, what am I really doing and how am I being fair to myself at this point? Because a lot of what I did was not fair to me, let alone the other people I was with.
Yeah.
So I feel like now I was just working with a girl the other day and I would have never told her what I told her, and I actually talked about the video, and she was like, I am so glad you just brought that up because I've been struggling with like my porn addiction. So I don't have a sexual addiction, but I like I don't understand even like how it happens, where I'm just like